All right, everyone. You know I love to start with the music and the fun and get the jive going. This is always the money dance song, Michael. You're plugging in for some money dancing. um,
Do it.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another week of NFA Money Talks. You know that this is your place every week to come for deep dive conversations that are going to help you scale your business faster. And Michael is a business scaling expert. I'm a business scaling expert. And so if you're here, it's because you're ready to learn tips and tricks to help you up-level your money mindset so that you can scale your business. And so we're going to be talking about all kinds of deep dive stuff. Michael has a really fun backstory, and of course, we'll dive into that at some point. But as you know, I always like to start with the juicy topics that most people don't like to talk about. So let's start with this, Michael. What would you say right now is the biggest money block that you're breaking through, one that you're playing with and focusing on so that you can take it to the next level?
Something that I've always held as a value for myself has been harmony and balance. And something that I recently heard one of my mentors talk about is this idea that, like, fundamentally a business should just about break even. Like, if you're just looking at it from a numbers and from an operations standpoint, businesses aren't necessarily meant or created to drive or deliver profit at high margin. And so the way that we get it there, right, is by introducing levers into the business that position it to be able to take those exponential types of trajectories in terms of growth. But for me, being comfortable in creating those is something that's very new, because, like I said, harmony and balance and equilibrium is something that I had valued prior to kind of moving into a strictly business mindset.
Say more, because I don't totally understand what you're saying. So I want listeners to make sure that they know too. Like what I hear you saying is that harmony and balance are somehow not in alignment with the new way you're thinking about scaling. Is that true?
So I think yes and no. So just the idea of creating a sustainable and profitable business felt very novel to me when I first went into business, because before that time in my life, it was all about just balance and harmony. And I felt like creating a profit, creating a surplus, having excess coming out of something that I created, it was just a bit of an uncomfortable feeling for me. And feeling okay deriving profit was something that I had to get used to, that I just wasn't before.
Got it. Okay. So what I hear you saying, this is an interesting one. Almost like money's not spiritual somehow.
Yeah, I mean, and I went through a powerful spiritual awakening about 4 years ago now. And so I think, like a lot of intuits and empaths, continuing to polish my relationship with money through that process and understand what money is and what it means to me, and recreating that relationship day after day is definitely a work in progress. I think it should be for everyone.
Ooh, I love that term you use, polish your relationship to money. That's a great term. Okay, so as you're working through this, what are you finding in terms of, I want to dig into your spiritual, you said you had a spiritual awakening and a spiritual transformation. What do you think money is? Like, what does money bring up for you?
It's changed 180 degrees, Amanda. I mean, prior to my awakening, I didn't give money a second thought. I was not focused on building credit. I had subconsciously driven myself into a hole in terms of credit. I really wasn't focused on saving up at all. I was just kind of on a hamster wheel of get paid every 2 weeks and pay my rent. And that was about the extent of my kind of money awareness or my money consciousness. Since then, it's become a central pillar of everything that I do, every hour of every day, without being obsessed or I think hyper focused, but really just understanding that money is normal, natural, it's creative, right? It is love. And I was having a really in-depth conversation with one of my friends the other day, but like, money drives, if you can if you can be okay with kind of recognizing that money and love are one and the same, then you can say that money does drive this world that we live in, and it's okay, and it's a skill, and it's creative to be able to generate it within your life. So that's really the mindset shift that I think I've been focused on.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. For everyone watching now or later, I want you to plug into the comments. What does money mean to you? Because this is a really powerful conversation. And I think I was doing a meditation once in one of my masterminds, and I started it. This person was new, and I said, "Okay, let's do our meditation." And I did a money meditation. And at the end, the person said, "Oh my God, I was struggling to do the meditation because my brain kept just thinking money. We shouldn't be meditating about money."
Mhm.
So there's this concept or this belief, I think, for a lot of spiritual, empathic types of people who go like, "Oh, money is." That like money could be the root of all evil. Money is a negative energy. We shouldn't be focused on making money if we're spiritual beings, that kind of thing. And so I think it's really important what you're saying to go, okay, how does money bring harmony and balance? And how does money actually, to me, I look at money as, one of the greatest forces, like you were saying, of love. It's of sharing value in the world. The more money you have, the more impact you get to make. And so I just think it's a really powerful block to be breaking through. So again, everyone here in the comments, put, what does money mean to you? Does it, what would financial freedom look like? And if you've ever been impoverished, you will know that money is survival. And when you're, it's like when I was on food stamps and freaking out about feeding my kids and facing potential homelessness, all I thought about was money. It wasn't like, oh, I can push money away. I was like, I'm terrified. I don't know how I'm going to eat. And I got to think about money all the time. And it wasn't in such a spiritual way because I was scared, and so money brings up so much for us. So thank you for sharing. If you could articulate like a fear you have, and I know this is vulnerable, but it's like a fear you have about making a lot of money, coming from that place of like money in the history of thinking money is bad. What does it bring up?
I think the biggest fear right now for me at the forefront is just never kind of getting to the point where I feel successful or happy, because I think all entrepreneurs can relate to this. We set goals of some typically arbitrary figure that we're wanting to hit. I know for me, it started out, it was like 10K months, because that's the buzzword that everybody's talking about for some reason. And that's what I thought I wanted to make successful.
Yeah.
And once you hit 10K, it's going to go to 30 and then 50 and then, 6-figure months. And all of these numbers, which are, they're representative of what to you, right? And so it's like, to me, I guess my biggest fear is like, I know that money doesn't equal happiness, and that the corresponding levels of fulfillment and happiness that I would feel at each of those thresholds, like, it's not going to satisfy me the way that I think it will. So like, what would that feel like to sit back and be like, I did it, I achieved it, like, I'm happy now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so then is it the recognition of like money doesn't buy you happiness, so what does?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that wild? I love working with money because of this, because to me, it's that outer reality reflecting your inner belief system, and money's such a tangible force. And so we often do think like, oh, once I get to this level, I'll feel really good and I'll be really happy. Or once I get to this level, and then you get there. And if you haven't been feeling good the whole time, you're going to feel the exact same as you did, or maybe worse, because you realize that the money isn't fulfilling the happiness.
And here's what I found, Amanda, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this too. At the end of the day, where I'm at right now is like, money is a barometer, and for me, it's a tool, but nothing more than that. And you can use money to create higher and higher levels or thresholds of lifestyle, and you can use it, and you should use it, to reinvest and to transmute what you have into what you want. But beyond that, your sense of fulfillment will never come from having achieved a certain figure that you think you want or need to hit to get there. It is all about the impact that you have with the people that you serve, and nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. Well, and realistically, that's anything, right? Like anytime we think that something outside of us is going to make us happy and fulfilled, once we fulfill it, we realize that's not true because we are what makes us feel fulfilled, right? And so I
Yeah.
think that's such a huge gift in coaching. And I know that you work with people in the same way of helping people understand their inner selves so that they can create outer realities that feel aligned and uplifting. And then that automatically scales your business because you become, I don't know where you're at in terms of like vibrational frequencies and all of those things, but, really thinking about that. What a juicy conversation already. This is awesome. Okay. So money's a tool. Again, plug it into the comments, whatever it means to you. I would love to hear from everyone. Share. I would like to hear now about the spiritual transformation you had. You mentioned it a few times. So could you share with everyone watching, what happened for you in that time?
Yeah. To put it bluntly, it was the most transformational period of my life. If you would have looked at me prior to 2018, you would have seen just a normal guy doing what normal guys do. And what that means to me is just kind of going through life on autopilot. And I alluded to it. I was not focused on amassing or creating more or becoming something aligned with my purpose for being here. I wasn't thinking on that level. And when I woke up, the reason that I say spiritual is because it was the way that it happened. It was tied to a deeper interest in, mysteries and metaphysics. And it happened really quickly for me, and it kind of started in that vein, and then it evolved over the next couple of years, really to more of a life awakening, and then into what I call a secondary awakening, which was focused around financial abundance and entrepreneurship and this emergence of this new desire that I had. And I read all of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad series in a matter of months, plus several others that just completely reshaped my relationship to money and helped redefine what I wanted for myself out of my life. So that's what propelled me to where I'm at now.
Was there some sort of event that happened or something that started the transformation?
It's interesting. It was really just kind of a renewed fascination with the paranormal, with a previous relationship that I was in, and we started kind of diving down the rabbit hole together, and it evolved from there into just a passion for understanding the truth of existence. And I just wanted to know the truth. And so dove deep and ended up creating my new age brand off the back of that called New Earth Knowledge. And we were chatting before we hopped on air. And so that's kind of where I got my start with coaching and started doing selective one-on-one work with people from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for you, that was the entry point of starting to share what you were learning with other people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so now walk us through this transformation, because it sounds like, that was the entry point for you. And this, when we're talking here, this attracts coach type entrepreneurs who are scaling their businesses to 6 figures plus. Obviously, most of the people who follow me are going to be somewhat woo-woo minded because I go deep into woo-woo stuff and make it scientific. Right. So it's I'm always bringing the mix of metaphysical, quantum physics, that kind of thing, and really talking to people about how their beingness is going to attract from a state of alignment, and then how to practically apply that to business scaling, because you can't have one or the other. If you're only focused on strategy but you're not energetically aligned, you're going to be challenged. If you're only energetically aligned but you're not taking any action, which actually I think is counter, because if you're completely energetically aligned, you're always going to take inspired action, right? It's just that's what's innate and embedded in being inspired. And so you went from this place, and now you're starting to focus more. And I know you said your new business is called Scaling Sciences. So will you talk a little bit about that transformation? Because I think coaches go through a lot of transformations in their businesses.
And very quickly too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We try to pack what would take an average person, whatever that means, 5 years, and we try to pack it into 5 weeks or 5 months. I know
Yeah.
that's what happened for me.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
Yeah.
others
Do you
can.
ever feel like I often, like after a weekend, I'll be like, man, that was last week. I feel like last week was a year of my life. It's like so much can happen when you're on a growth journey, I think.
So time dissipates, right? And you come out
Yeah.
of time and you go into another frequency of perception entirely. And I found that to be true. And so I think with that, so when I started to reintegrate after being so high for so long, and I started to come back down to earth, and I wanted to find a way to apply the kind of like the higher order insights, downloads, wisdom, knowledge that I was acquiring, and I wanted to take it from a purely spiritual place to how can I apply this in a way that's going to allow and activate the maximum number of people to create a better lifestyle for themselves here while we're in the physical, right? And so having worked in marketing automation for the 6-7 years prior in my career, and having this passion myself for lifestyle design and for the 4-hour work week and all of these amazing ideals,
Yeah.
I realized that the process of building and scaling a business is synonymous with creativity, and it's just applying your creative capacities or aptitudes to a very specific, skill set or project that happens to be a business. And so then it becomes about figuring out all the processes and the systems and all of those things that go into doing that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I like what you said. I'm gonna type this in because I'm gonna talk about this. I think this is really powerful. So you said the process of scaling a business is synonymous with creativity.
Yeah.
That's such a powerful quote and statement because, for me, I like to look at business as a spiritual evolution process because it brings up everything. Everything, right? It's like I have 3 kids and I think about, well, I have 4 babies now, but 3 of my own and then blended family another. And I go like watching babies grow up and like birthing a baby into the world, like you're dedicated, you're committed, and sometimes it sucks and it's scary and it's hard and it brings up everything within you. And now building a business, I'm like, it's the same process. So I think it's anything you take on that you have like heart and soul and all of your energy and money and time put into and invested into, it's going to bring up fear of sales, fear of yourself, imposter syndrome, doubt, insecurity, uncertainty, like all of it, so I think it's amazing that you said, I love that the process of scaling a business is synonymous with creativity. And I think creativity is that driving force within us. That's like our spark of life. Like we all are actually, I think people suffer and get sick when they aren't expressing their creativity, and business is a beautiful way to do that. So I love that you said that. That's really cool. Okay. So it sounds to me like you've had a pretty big shift in the way you see business and the way that you're framing and branding yourself. So will you talk a little bit about that transformation? Because I think a lot of people here experience the same things. All the people I work with, like sometimes someone will come to work with me and they come out of working with me doing a totally different business because they realize it's much more aligned with their zone of genius. And sometimes it's just an enhancement, but it's like, the self-discovery is a creative process and a creative force. So it sounds like you've had some pretty big evolutions in your process. So will you share some of that shift from, you said, was it New Earth? What was it? New
Earth knowledge.
New Earth knowledge. Okay. To scaling sciences. So like, share some of that process of branding and who you're targeting and how you think through that to help other people in their journey.
Yeah. I mean, so as far as the branding goes, I've had 3-4 different namesakes that I've attached to my coaching practice. I think the first thing that I would say and share with others is like, it's okay to iterate on your name or even on your avatar that you serve, or the products and the services and the programs and all of those things, like it doesn't have to be perfect, certainly when you start, and it doesn't have to be perfect even as you're scaling. And I think that's a big misconception that a lot of entrepreneurs have, is like, it has to be perfect for me to start bringing people in and helping people and before I present it to the world. But it hasn't been for me. And all I can share is my experience around that. I've literally gone, again, like I've taken a 180 turn from the metaphysics and kind of like new earth consciousness, universal wisdom tilt to now pretty much 100% focus on business growth and scaling. And, just to kind of take it back to the beginning, Amanda, I think, so one thing that I've always been passionate about is just the idea of investing and creating a defined output from a defined input, and then refining that input over time as you get more clear on what you want to get out of the thing that you're investing your time, money, energy into. And so that was a natural transition into coaching for me, because I love working, and I love working hard, and I love learning and getting better, and again, refining as I go along.
Yeah. Okay. So what you're saying is you're following your intuition to shift your business as you see necessary and as feels more aligned for you as you do it.
Totally. I'm doing everything that I do is based purely on intuition. Like, I do have goals written down, I do have flow charts that I've created, but I only do those things after I'll wait until I have an intuitive burst that I feel very strongly aligned with or guided to follow on a given direction. And I just go for it. I don't stop. I don't think about it. I do not take 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks typically to like when I pivoted to scaling sciences, it happened in a matter of 2 days. Like, I didn't harp on it, and I pivot when I do.
Yeah. Will you share with NFA? I've been thinking about what to call my NFA tribe, and it's NFA money makers or NFA millionaires or NFA masters, NFA manifestors, awesome people, all of an NFA. Will you share with our NFA community what successes you've had and noticed from following your intuition? Because I think this is a very important manifestation quality that most people ignore.
Yes. The number one thing for me has been, you are going to slowly, I'll even say subconsciously, create the lifestyle or the reality for yourself that you are predominantly focused on, and it probably will not come in the way that you expect that it will. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs or people that get into coaching, they have this vision for freedom and time, money, and location freedom, right? That's kind of like what everybody's shooting for. And they think the way that they're going to get there is through they have a preconceived idea of how they're going to get there by selling this many tickets to this program that they're going to do X, Y, and Z with. And that very well may be the case. But what I've seen is that, your higher self, your expanded self, whatever you want to kind of call it, it will create the reality for you that you desire, or that you feel that you deserve, or that you believe you're worthy of creating, as long as you show up with like a giving mindset and a desire to serve. Trust that in time, like you'll find yourself, you'll look up one day and you'll find yourself in a position where it's like, this is different than where I was 5 years ago. And it might not be where I want to be, but if I keep following this path, I know I can see the successes, and they're getting better.
Yeah. So you're talking about faith and allowing, right? It's like a lot of it's allowing, and listening to your intuitive voice strengthens your intuitive voice. And then what I've noticed is that as I do that, it never turns up. It never shows up the way that I think it's going to show up. And
Right.
so you can have that plan to guide you and to take steps in the direction, but don't be attached to the plan, because the universe has in store for you something even better than you could have imagined. And it's going to come to you in a way that you could have never planned. And I love these. It's like examples of, I actually worked with this coach. It was awesome. He came to me for money blocks and he doubled his income. And then his opportunities just kept accelerating. And then it led him down a totally different path than he thought it ever would. Like he would have never planned it. And it's because he was raising his frequency, getting more and more aligned. And by the nature of doing that, it's impossible for more and more opportunities not to come your way because, you're opening the door to those opportunities and you're following your intuition. So I think for me, that's been one of the hardest things to practice. And I'm getting better and better as is like letting go of my plan to let different stuff in and allow and receive, and trust that when something that I'm playing with isn't going the way I expect, to just go, it's okay. The universe is going to bring me something even better because I still am dedicated to the long-term mission of serving 5 million people through NFA money, right? So however that looks, I'm going to just trust that it's going to keep unfolding as I go along. It's wild to play with and watch. It sounds like exactly what you're doing. Will you share? So I always like to give 3 takeaway tips for our people to get to 6 figures faster. So what are 3, practical, actionable tips that you can offer for for entrepreneurs to get to 6 figures faster?
So 0 to 6 figures, 1 product, 1 price point, 1 avatar. 1 product, 1 price point, 1 avatar. Now, you're certainly going to innovate and iterate on all 3 of those as you go. But from 0 to 6, right, you want to be hyper focused on who you serve, what you deliver, the value of your program, and then the price point. And a confused mind doesn't buy anything, right? So you want to be just very, very clear on your offer, on the way you present it, and then on that investment. And you want to help people obviously understand the value of it and how they can get started and why they should want to.
I love this. Will you highlight what you notice people doing mistake-wise in this part? Because this is huge. Like, I think this is probably one of the greatest tips that people could discover. It was like, it's the scattered, it's the never staying too long enough. And it's like, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this and this and this. So will you talk a little bit about the mistakes you see people making in this specific tip?
I think that people don't go deep enough on who they're targeting. I think a lot of people, it's easy to create your target avatar. Business coaches, I typically serve 30 to 50 years old in North America, and they're struggling with X, Y, Z. That's not deep enough to where you're actually going to be able to extract the insights that are needed to create belief shattering content, and certainly to have the conversations with those people that are needed to connect with them on a heart level. So something that I kind of teach and preach is what are the scripts that are recurring, that are replaying in the mind of your avatar? What are they thinking but not saying or not posting outwardly that are things that they're either trying to fix or trying to achieve? What are those things? Write those down, journal on those, right? And think about where you've been, the thoughts that you've had or still have around that, and really start to go deep in that kind of way. So that's number 1.
Awesome. Okay. What's number 2?
Number 2, so I'll say around the program, is, what we're seeing in the coaching space today, Amanda, is just a completely saturated space. And like any coach knows, like, you're getting reached out to every week by 3 to 5 to 7 or more other coaches or programs sharing or pitching their thing with you. I know that's the case for me. And so I just through that process, like, I've gotten an interesting kind of immersion into what others are kind of offering and how they're positioning it. And I actually leverage that as competitive intel. Let me see what these people are doing. How are they talking? What's the language that they're using? So I think not enough coaches, just based on what I just shared with how busy the space is, not enough people are really taking the time to develop a comprehensive system or platform or program. And we need to go beyond one-on-one work, guys, if we want to really, really scale and help as many people as we can. One-on-one can't scale. So I see too many people just sticking to one-on-one, where what we need to do is we need to create some kind of a more inclusive, comprehensive, overarching system or trademarked program that really will allow us to position ourselves as the leading authority in our niche.
Awesome. Okay. So what I heard you say in that was there was a lot packed in there, actually. So, you're using, when you say competitive intel, it's like all of those offers you get from people, you're going like, okay, what are they doing that's actually not unique or maybe repulsive? Sometimes I get these texts and I'm like, wow, does this work for people? Like, I can't believe that you would just text and sell at me without even knowing me or asking anything about me, like that kind of thing. But then it's also what is the offer? What you're saying? So develop a comprehensive program, meaning, expand beyond one-on-one into other creative ways of serving people. Can you give like 3 or 4 examples of other options that you're thinking about?
Yeah.
Or implementing?
So many value adds in different ways that you can be creative with either your service level agreement or the way that you show up to help people. Even just something as simple as changing the language of how you position yourself from a coach to maybe an apprenticeship or a mentorship. Changing it up and just doing things that are a little bit different than what anybody else is doing is going to help you really differentiate yourself in this space. Do you offer maybe assistant coaches as part of your program? I have 3 assistant coaches that clients would get access to when they join the program, right? So that's a little value add. Other things, service level, time of response for customer support, level of customer support. One thing that has amazed me every time I reach out to the ClickFunnels team for support, how quickly and how helpful their entire support team is. And the reason that they are that way is because their leader, Russell Brunson, has instilled that value as a non-negotiable upon the team. We over-deliver when our customers and clients reach out to us. So starting to think in that way is going to help you grow 10 times faster.
Okay, awesome. So when you're saying comprehensive program, it's not just what is it that you offer, like say group coaching versus one-on-one. It's how does that comprehensive package in the entire program serve people in a way that's unique and potentially has you standing out above the rest?
You have to want success for your client more than they want it themselves. And that has to be clear from the moment that they find you.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, great. What's tip number 3?
So that was, what was that? That was okay. I think price was the third one, right?
Yeah. So we've got 1 product, 1 price point, and 1 avatar.
Yep.
Tip number 1. Tip number 2: use comprehensive intel to develop a competitive intel to develop a comprehensive program.
Let's see. Tip number 3. Extend your time horizon and think long-term instead of short-term. And then I think as an addendum to that, I would say, don't buy into the hype. Do not listen to or compare yourself to what you hear others doing, especially in your space. A lot of it, guys, is fabricated. Numbers are manipulated. I'm saying it right here. People can throw different numbers at you that they came up with in a myriad of ways through being creative themselves. If somebody is saying a certain number, $1 million a month or 10 million, a year, well, how did they come up with that number? Is that what went into that? Is that cash collected? Is that revenue? Is that extrapolating from an event that they had, so many signups for in a given month? What is that like? So there's so many things that go into growth, but I think not comparing yourself to others and other figures that people are throwing out, and then giving yourself, instead of 5 weeks or 5 months, make this a 5-year investment in yourself.
Yeah. I really like this one because like when you say think long-term instead of short-term, it's remembering that your business building journey is not a sprint
Yeah.
race. It's not even a marathon because marathons can be torturous. Like we don't want that either. We want like this is a lifelong growth trajectory of evolving your spirit really and serving the world through what you love to do. So why would you ever want to stop doing that? And it's like, okay, so this is a lifelong journey where I'm going to be winning at my own game. So, I love the not comparing yourself to others because I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs and especially heart-centered entrepreneurs really struggle with. It's like, but I'm putting my heart and my soul and my effort and my energy and my time and money into this, but they're doing way better than me. And often they forget like that person is 40 years ahead of them or 10 years ahead of them, or even 6 months ahead of them. Or they started at a different starting point. It's really important to just play your own game and win at your own game. And to me, the game is how do I master myself and my money to have that financial freedom where I have freedom of choice that feels good. And making money doing what you love is like, to me, the greatest gift that there is. Because then every day just feels like play. You're like, oh, I get to get up and do exactly what I love to do in the world. And my ends are met. And it's not a race to the finish line. Where is the finish line? There is no finish line except for the one that you set in your mind.
This is an infinite game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then another thing I want to point out that you said is, I think this is where social media is really interesting. It's like people, put out there all the money they're making and all the things they're doing, but like, do they break down the bottom line? Like I had a really enlightening meeting with someone last week where I was like, they were like, you're making $1 million a year in their business, which has been one of my goals. And I've been really sitting with that one and going like, why do I care about $1 million? What does it mean? Is it important? Why did I set that? How much money, what does that look like? And it was fascinating because we were having this conversation. She basically was talking about how she wasn't even breaking even. Like she wasn't profitable. Yeah. And I was like going, oh my God, I make way less than that right now, but I'm very profitable because of the way that I structure my business. And so as I scale to 7 or 8 or whatever, who knows what number it'll be. Maybe I'll stay in the 6-figure range for the rest of my life. I don't know. But it's like, what is my take home pay and what is the joy that I experience building my business? To me, that's what really matters. It's not the number at the end of the, yeah. So I think it's fascinating that you say that because I think, for everyone here watching, think about for you, what is a business that you would love to design, like reverse engineering from you getting to get up every day and do exactly what you love. Like that makes your heart sing, like that's what we want. So that's, when you say tip number 3, that's what comes to mind for me. I think that's really powerful.
I think, this, I don't know if this would be echoed by many others necessarily. I would rather do really meaningful work that I'm so passionate about every day when I wake up and work 60 hours a week, making $60,000 than I would being absolutely miserable, running myself into the ground, which I've probably tilted more towards that side of things, the last year here, and be making 500,000, but not the peace of mind or the sanity or not sleeping and not doing these things. It's like, you want to enjoy the journey. And I'd rather myself, and I'd rather see you guys listening, I'd rather see you take, again, 5 years and do it healthy than do it in a year and run yourself into the ground. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's something you said I think is important to point out for people is because I think a lot of people have that money block, like you've got to work hard to make the big bucks, and that people who make the big bucks are killing themselves and are burnt out. And so we run that story in our mind and then we create our reality through running that story, right? So we filter everything that we see and do and feel through that reality. And then we create a business that's kind of in prison. Mm-hmm. And so what I love to help people do, and it sounds like that's the journey you're on as well, is like, how do we scale from a place of alignment? So, you taking your original, the original money block you were talking about, harmony and balance. Like we were talking about harmony and balance and money making, like integrating the two. Like, how can we have harmony and balance as we scale our businesses from a place of joy and fun and flow and freedom?
That's it.
Like that's the quest, I think. And especially, I love to work with men and women. And lately I've been like really playing with like, do I just work with women? Because there's something like, I was a gender scholar, so like a PhD in sociology, and I studied gender and taught gender. And it was like women have unique money blocks where they think that a lot of times it's like men are more powerful. And even in the coaching space, we see this, like in a coaching book you're reading, it talks about like the top 10 heavy hitters. It's always men, and it's like, so there's this embedded belief that like women can't make as much money as men. And so then they got to work harder to prove themselves. And then men have the other ones where it's like, got to be the breadwinner, and all those things come into play as well too. So it's just, these money blocks show up in such big ways. So I really appreciate you sharing what's going on for you and your business building trajectory and things that you go through, because I think everybody needs to hear this stuff. It's really powerful.
And I think something else, just to piggyback off of that, especially for your listeners, is, look at the brand that Dr. Amanda has created and injected herself into, again, with a non-negotiable that this will work, right? This will be successful. I am the NFA money coach. This is who I am. And speaking from personal experience, if I'm not yet where I want to be in terms of scaling my own business or helping others to do the same, it's just a matter of time catching up to what already exists within our being, right? And we've created every single thing that we can, every component of that, or what that would look like in our external and more and more in our internal reality. So it's just a matter of it manifesting in time. And so I think the gap there, right, the delta, is being okay with the passage of time and allowing it to deliver us into that space.
Love it. That's awesome. What you're talking about is your alignment with your vision is so powerful that your success is inevitable, because it's just a matter of time, because that timeline already exists. Like, it already exists because you have the desire for it to exist. So all you've got to do is keep taking steps in the direction.
Exactly.
So awesome. So many good things. Okay. What's a book that's changed your life? And then we're coming to a close, everyone. So what's a book that you would recommend that's changed your life? I know you talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which that's an awesome book.
Yeah, I would say so many.
I know. Yeah.
I think the 4-Hour Work Week. That's what I'm going to go with.
My last guest said the same book, and I haven't read it yet. Of course, I know it's embarrassing. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to read it. I will be honest, this is hilarious, and no one has heard me say this before. I'm typing it in. I can't type and talk at the same time. Okay, there we go. Because I'm like values oriented. I always go like, oh, I choose to do what I love to do all the time because it's in my highest value. So why would I ever only want to work 4 hours a week? So I have been like resistant to reading that book for that reason, which is hilarious. But now I've had 2 people in the last 2 weeks say I got to read it. So I'm like, okay, it's time. I'll read it and see what I get out of it.
You have to read it with the frame or the context then of not necessarily wanting to create a 4-hour work week for yourself, but to immerse yourself in the stories and the wisdom and the takeaways.
Well, and I'm sure there's a ton of wisdom. I mean, I highly doubt that Tim Ferriss actually works 4 hours a week. Like,
right?
There's no way. But I think the concept behind it, like that framework of being efficient with your time, because time is our greatest commodity, that's powerful.
It's the mindset, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. And then if you could give one, like the number one money confidence tip you can think of, what would that be?
It's this, Amanda. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Income comes from within. I think the fallacy that we fall prey to is the idea that our income, that our financial abundance comes from outside of ourselves, from a job, from clients, from a stock market or somewhere else. If you haven't read this book called Busting Loose from the Money Game, I highly recommend that as well. And that's, I think, what inspired that idea for me. Income comes from within. You dictate, you create when, where, and how much abundance you create.
Oh, sounds incredible. I haven't heard of that book before. I'll have to get that one. Busting Loose from the Money Game.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And that's brilliant. Income comes from within. I mean, when we're thinking about wealth consciousness, you can only become as wealthy as you are internally, right? And wealth consciousness doesn't even have to do with the amount of money in the bank specifically. It has to do with your energetic frequency around money. And playing like I think about money making as a game. Like, how much fun can you have making money instead of making a drudgerous, scary thing? So awesome tips. Okay, where can people find you? Because you've left us a ton of gems of wisdom. So can you share the best places to find you?
Yeah, you guys can email me personally if you want. MichealJoelBecker@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram at the Biz Growth Coach.
Nice. And he has an awesome Instagram, everyone. It's actually, we met, I have a podcasting connection platform that I use. And I always go check people out and go like, ooh, would this be a good guest for us to chat with? And he has a lot of cool stuff on Instagram. So check him out there. Scaling Sciences. It's been really wonderful to talk to you. Everyone here, from me, go to NFA Money Formula. I've also just been playing with my Money Blocks profile again recently, and doing a lot with that. So moneyblocksprofile.com, and that gives you your top 3 money blocks, gives you a free masterclass, and helps you know which one is your top money block. These are things, NFA Money is all about helping people break through their unconscious money blocks so that they can create whatever they want in their life and their business. And so the tools I create are always about that. So NFAmoneyformula.com, moneyblocksprofile.com. And again, if you want to connect with Micheal, go here. Thanks so much for being on the show today. Everyone else, if you're watching this later, go ahead and check out in the bottom left. You're going to see the playlist for all the NFA Money Talks. I have incredible people on who are doing it in the real world and bringing you authentic tips that they've learned from their experiences. So be sure to check it out. Till next week. See you, everyone. NFA Money Making High Fives.
Let's go, everyone.